If you're considering running cold email, one thing that you can't skip over is deliverability. The reason why this is important is because if you don't get this down right, no matter how much time you spend in building your list, creating your copy, optimizing your analytics, nothing's going to go work, because if you don't have deliverability down right, your emails will land in the promotion folder and your prospects won't be able to see your emails. If they don't see your emails, they won't be able to book a meeting with you. And then if they don't book a meeting with you, you'll have less revenue. So let's go ahead and jump in to see how you could make sure that you have your deliverability right. So everything that we're going to be chatting about for the next few minutes is based on my 5-year experience of running cold email for our clients. Now, I've also hired network engineers, people that have built email servers, to teach me the ins and outs of cold email deliverability as well. If anybody online says that they have the 100% guarantee and they know how to land in the inbox, they're full of crap. The reason why is because if anyone on the planet wants to send emails maliciously and they have a guarantee of landing in people's inboxes, that would harm email service providers' users. So Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, they have these guardrails in place to protect their users from phishing and also other malicious emails that may come their way. Now, what are the pieces of cold email deliverability? First off, we have email providers. A few of the major ones are Google Workspace, Outlook, and then there are custom SMTP providers. Each and every single one of these Google Workspace, Outlook, SMTP email providers, typically they'll have a shared IP, meaning that from all the emails that they're responsible for receiving and sending, it's all a part of a pool. That pool has a dedicated reputation, meaning that if one person in that pool has been sending malicious emails, your reputation will be impacted because you're inside of a bad pool. Some people that decide to move to a dedicated IP, they will have less history and less reputation built up over time, but they will be fully responsible for their reputation. It's harder to warm up and maintain over time, though. So your domain health is building up. If you are sending emails that are landing in people's inboxes, they are not getting marked as spam and they're getting replies back. Some common buzzwords that are often thrown around in email deliverability are the following DNS records. These DNS records are attached to your domain. You might be able to adjust them in a tool like Namecheap inside or GoDaddy. And if you go to the DNS management zone, you can add text records, such as an SPF record, a DKIM record, a DMARC record. And what these mean is that the email that you are sending from the domain has been authorized. A DKIM key is a signature providing integrity to the email. When it comes to DMARC, this means that it will say if the email coming from that domain has passed SPF and then DKIM. So typically, you'll have to get the SPF record set up, then the DKIM record, and then finally, you'll have the DMARC record set up lastly. One thing to note as well is that whenever you're sending emails, it's always important to make sure that your from and then your reply to are always matching. Because if you're sending an email, let's just say from Connor at connorkaplan.com, for example, and you have the reply go to Joe at joesmith.com, email service providers, they find that to be very fishy. So it has a higher likelihood of landing in the spam. What you could do is if you go into your inbox, you click on an email, you'll see the 3 dots typically in either Outlook or Google Workspace. This is specifically for Gmail. If you click the show original button, once you click those 3 dots, you'll be able to see the IP address, if the email has an SPF, DKIM, and DMARC record as well. If you don't have your SPF, DKIM, DMARC record set up, you have a higher likelihood to go inside the spam folder. So what are some common mistakes that also hurt email deliverability? If you message a poor list, meaning that your list has a ton of invalid emails or spam traps. Also, if you buy a domain on day 1 and then day 2, you send 3,000 emails from that one domain, typically your reputation for that one domain hasn't built up enough to land in the inbox for your recipients. This is a given. However, spammy language, if you say things like buy now, investment, opportunities, your last chance, for example, you'll have a higher likelihood to land in the spam folder. Also, if you're ignoring compliance, such as you're missing an unsubscribe link or you have deceptive subject lines, you'll have a high likelihood to land in the spam. So to recap, if you're messaging a bad list, if you're sending too fast, if you have spam words, and if you also don't have an unsubscribe link or a way for people to opt out, which will eventually lead to people marking your emails as spam, that will impact your deliverability. So what you could do is you could use authentication tools. You could warm up your emails over time. You could check deliverability. You could clean your list. And then finally, you could also monitor the spam complaints that you get. So if you're a numbers person, you might be wondering, well, hey, Connor, what are some healthy practices to aim for? Well, you'll want to have above a 98% deliverability. You'll want to aim for under 1% bounce rates. Your spam complaint rate should be under 0.1%. And you can monitor your spam complaints on Google Postmaster tools. If you want to see what blacklist you might be on, you can go on X Toolbox. Then feel free to click here to pause the video to see what each section should be again, if you want to have healthy domain reputation. So to recap, you could use Google Postmaster tools. If you're using Outlook, you could use Microsoft SNDS. And this is always best practices too. Feel free to clean your list using Never Bounce, Zero Bounce, Lead Magic, any other type of lead cleaning tool so that you could filter out all of the invalid emails. Other best practices that weren't mentioned were to limit the amount of links that you have on the initial first touch email. 0 is ideal. You want to avoid URL shorteners. Additionally, I wouldn't recommend using any type of open or click tracking. One of the best ways how to see the performance of the campaign is to see how many replies you get and then how many positive replies come from the total amount of replies that came from the campaign. So those are some best practices. Additional information that you should know is if you're doing cold email, I definitely recommend warming up your emails. You can gradually increase the volume of your sending capacity over 2 to 4 weeks. You'd use warm-up tools like Instantly or Smart Lead. I'd recommend sending during business hours, mimic normal human sending patterns. And then finally, use multiple sending accounts. You don't want to burn your primary domain or have a single point of failure. Here's a graph. This is how I would approach my sending volume over 30 days. Recap, deliverability is everything if you want to succeed in your cold email campaigns. Reason why is because if you don't dial this in, no matter how much effort you put into building your list, building your copy, dialing your analytics, nothing will matter if your emails go to the spam folder because your prospects won't see it. So you want to do whatever the opposite would be of what a spammer does. Make sure you have a clean list. Don't use spam language. Make sure that you have your DNS records in check and slowly warm up your campaigns. So if you dial in all of these best practices, you have a higher likelihood of landing in the inbox and booking meetings. If you have any questions on this video, feel free to let me know and I'll see you on the next one. Ciao.